634 AD, 2 years after the death of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. A storm was brewing in the heart of Syria. The city of Damascus, the paradise of the Levant, stood tall and proud, unaware of the cyclone that was headed its way. His name was Khalid bin Walid, a man who had once fought against Islam, now led its most unstoppable army. A cunning tactician, a shrewd strategist, perhaps the most feared warrior of his time, and times thereafter, known across many lands as the drawn sword of Allah. On the 21st of August, in the year 634, Damascus became the target of one of the greatest siege operations in history. For 7 centuries, this fortress city had defied empires. Its walls rose 36 feet high. 6 massive gates guarded the city like iron teeth. Behind them, 20,000 Roman soldiers stood ready under the command of Thomas, the son-in-law of Emperor Heraclius. But beyond the walls, a new power had risen, the Rashidun Caliphate, and at the head of its all-conquering army, the greatest general of his age, Khalid bin Walid, once an enemy of Islam, and now its fiercest defender, a man who had shattered armies, broken 9 swords in a single duel to the death, and indelibly carved his name into the annals of warfare. With him stood giants of the battlefield: Abu Ubaidah bin Jarrah, Amr bin As, Yazid bin Abu Sufyan, and the champion who never wore armor, Zara bin Azwa. Together they commanded a corps each corps 1,000 strong, and together they descended on Damascus. Khalid's strategy was as elegant as it was ruthless. Roads were cut, supply lines were severed. From Beit Lahir to Pella, every path to Damascus was blocked. The city was strangled. Inside the walls, fear took root as food dwindled and hope faded to despair. But Thomas was not a man to surrender. Twice he tried to break free. Twice he failed. The first attempt ended with blood on the stones, with Thomas losing an eye to an arrow shot by a Muslim widow, avenging her husband. Blinded in one eye, Thomas swore revenge, vowing to take 1,000 eyes for the one he had lost. But this desire for vengeance could not break the noose tightening around Damascus. While swords clashed and men died, another story unfolded. A story of love and doom. His name was Jonah, a Greek priest, and his heart belonged to a woman named Aina. The siege and the trials of war had kept them apart. And now, he was desperate enough to betray his own city. On a dark night, Jonah slipped into the Muslim camp and begged to see Khalid. He made him an offer, information about a lesser-known entry point into the city, the dispositions of the troops inside, and the best time for an attack. This, in exchange for his life and the life of the woman he loved. September 18th was a night of reckoning. The walls of Damascus loomed like mountains in the dark, and then shadows began to move. Khalid, with Kaka bin Amr and Mazur bin Adi, scaled the eastern wall, climbing unto death itself. The Roman guards on the walls fell with scarcely a sound. Ropes slid down. 100 warriors climbed up and over. A fearsome fight ensued, followed by an eerie silence. And then, the eastern gate swung open. For the first time in 7 centuries, Damascus had been breached. The city shook with the thunder of hooves as cavalrymen swarmed through the gates. But on the very verge of defeat, Thomas played his last card, not with swords, but with words. He sought out Abu Ubaidah, the gentle, soft-spoken second-in-command, and sued for peace, knowing fully well the terms for surrender and being taken by sword were different. Abu Ubaidah, who was present on a different front of the siege, knew nothing about Khalid's ingress into the city, and agreed. On the cusp of being physically defeated by force, Thomas tried to drive a wedge between both commanding generals at this crucial juncture, but he failed because Khalid allowed the ceasefire terms agreed upon by Thomas and Abu Ubaidah to stand in effect, a testament to his leadership and vision. Damascus would live, its people spared, but a tax imposed on them, and a promise made to those who wished to leave, that they would have a head start of 3 days. 3 days, after which the Muslim army was at liberty to give chase. Those 3 days passed like a whirlwind for Jonah. Frantically, he searched the alleys of Damascus before learning that Aina had left with Thomas and the remnants of his army. Heartbroken, Jonah went to Khalid. "Please, my lord, let us pursue them," he begged. In response to this plea, Khalid unleashed havoc upon the fleeing Romans. 4,000 cavalry of the mobile guard set off in pursuit. They rode through the mountains in the midst of a storm. As rain lashed against their faces and lightning split the skies around them, and as the earth itself shook from the pounding of their horses' hooves, they saw them, Romans, thousands of them, resting after having been caught up in the same thunderstorm, their armor removed, their guard down. The brocade silk for which Damascus was famous, drying in the sun. The Muslim cavalry struck from all cardinal directions, all at once. Khalid from the south, Zara from the east, Rafi from the north. Abd ul-Rahman closed the west. The iron sickle swung shut, trapping the Romans and sealing their fate to be picked off, piecemeal. And then, silence, as two men strode into a clearing to face one another in a duel to the very end. Thomas, the Lion of Rome. Khalid, the drawn sword of Allah. They charged into one another. Steel met steel, and sparks flew like lightning. Thomas swung his broadsword with the strength of a giant. Khalid danced around death, again and again, and yet again, until an opening, a mighty thrust from Khalid's sword, hit its mark, eliciting a cry that split the heavens, and Rome's lion fell. A triumphant roar thundered across the battlefield. By Allah's will, Thomas is slain. But amidst the clamor of victory, a whisper of heartbreak. Jonah found Aina, dressed in the robes of a nun. She had chosen her faith over his love. As Jonah begged her to accompany him, she drew out a dagger instead, and before his eyes, she plunged the blade into her own heart. Jonah caught her as she fell, cradling her in his arms as her life slipped away, and the meadow drank her blood. Jonah lived on as a Muslim, fighting for the faith he had chosen, until the day fate claimed him. At Yarmouk, he fought like a man with nothing left to lose, leading the charge into the Roman ranks, again and again, until an arrow pierced his throat and he fell, giving up his life for the Muslim army he had grown to love. Rafi bin Umayr said, "I saw him fight with us at Yarmouk, tireless in the path of Allah, until that arrow struck, and he fell, a martyr." Years later, Rafi dreamed of Jonah, clothed in garments that seemed made of light, golden sandals upon his feet, walking through a garden where rivers flowed. Perhaps there, finally, he had managed to find the peace that life had denied him.